Whoa, hang about, an upload, but it hasn't been 6 months yet. Maybe this is some kind of magic. I don't know. Anyway, I'm gonna have some gameplay in the background of me playing Mario Kart. Maybe I need the thing that I'm gonna be talking about. That's gonna be the subject of this video. Maybe I need it. Maybe I'm the problem. On to the topic at hand. A big topic of contention has arisen over the past couple of weeks. Basically, the discussion of accessibility options in gaming. Two games that have sparked this discussion are the recently released Mario Kart 8 Deluxe for the Nintendo Switch and the upcoming Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. Now, both games feature some kind of options which allow you to effectively play the game with very minimal effort. The example of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is they allow you to have an automatic acceleration as well as an automatic steering option. Basically, as the name suggests, it drives for you and turns for you. Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, there's a lot of conflicting information here and there, but the Capcom have basically said yes, we will have characters with much simpler inputs, which kind of brings into question balance in regards to that game. Because if we have, say for example, Dragon Punch or Shoryuken or Uppercut, motions, which are normally the traditional motion, which is forward, down, forward, or punch. Usually these motions are a little bit more complex simply because the move itself is invincible. So in this case, what you have is you have an answer to jump-ins and cross-ups. Basically, the cross-up is when someone jumps in on you and tries to hit you from behind your hitbox, which usually can be counteracted by blocking the other direction. And if you have uppercuts easy enough to input by just doing a down motion or whatever they decide to have it be, that could be an issue for balance, because you'd have such an amazingly strong move that can just completely take out an aspect of the game. So we have these two scenarios, and there's been multiple scenarios prior to this. Street Fighter Cross Tekken had gems which you can equip, which could simplify your inputs. There were some really ridiculous gems in that game that made the game really busted, and they did that for the same exact reason for accessibility options. And talking about fighting games in Marvel vs. Capcom, even the first ever Marvel vs. Capcom game had simpler inputs or simpler combos, so this has been a staple of the franchise for a very long time. And even other fighting games as well, like Persona 4 Arena, if you mash the light punch over and over again, you get a combo into a super, which the damage scaling wasn't optimal, but it would be something that, say for example, if you weren't very adept at doing combos, you could have something that could allow you to do a combo that looked very flashy and wasn't that great overall. King of Fighters 14 also has that. Guilty Gear as well has a simpler option. So a lot of fighting games do have that, and a lot of the reasons why they try and do that and why many games have these kinds of options is because they want to get in new players and they want to attract people that may be disheartened by the idea of playing a fighting game. Maybe they don't want to learn all the combos, learn all the moves, learn all the spacing, all the other kind of stuff, because it just simply is just too hard. And I can understand that and appreciate that. And really, my issue here with that in particular, with the fighting game, is that I feel that, as well as the kind of things that Nintendo does, if we get back to Mario Kart 8, Nintendo have done this before where they have the super guide where you could have a level be played out for you, but you would get, like, I think in Galaxy 2, I think you got like a brown star or something like that, or a silver star instead of a gold star. Donkey Kong Country Returns also has something similar as well, and one of the new Super Mario Bros. Games. But both of those I don't think would show you the secrets and the extra collectibles, so they would give you an incentive to possibly go and play yourself. However, I think that these quote-unquote accessibility options, I think might be a plaster or a band-aid or however you wish to say it, instead of an actual solution, instead of an actual cure. Because what it's doing is it's beating the game for you, it's doing the combos and it's doing the special moves for you, whereas what you want is you want people to get invested in your game. Now ultimately, whenever companies do, or publishers or developers or anyone does stuff like this, it's purely for one reason and one reason only. It's to get in new players and to generate more money. And the best way to get new players, at least I feel, is to try and get people to be invested in what they're playing. The best way to get people invested is to try and have them work at something and improve on the game, improve in their skills. And the only way they're going to improve and learn is by having better tutorials, having better tools, which could be considered tutorials as well, in the game, which allow you to get a better understanding of the game, and also having mechanics and design that just try and introduce aspects, introduce concepts to you that make sense, and try and build up gradually as you go along. And Nintendo's really good at this, and I'm very surprised that they had the super guide. I mean, personally, none of this really affects me. I mean, I'm gonna always turn that stuff off, but if pressed and if asked about it, I would say that I don't like these systems. I think that there are better systems that you could put in place, or just make the game itself teach players how to play, because that way people are going to get more invested. Now, of course, if you have somebody who, you know, is actually disabled, say for example that one of their hands doesn't work properly, or if you literally have a baby and you just want them to feel good about themselves, I think these issues are slightly different, because it's a situation where that person wouldn't be able to play at all. So if someone, you know, whose hand doesn't work properly or something, they can't move the stick properly to steer, they wouldn't be able to play at all. So that's a different situation entirely. And a baby, of course, as well. Babies are clever, but you're not going to be able to teach them how to beat Dark Souls, you know, first go around. I mean, maybe you can. I don't know any babies. Maybe they're smart ones, possibly. So scenarios like that, in my opinion, are very, very different from a situation where you have a person who just simply is overwhelmed or intimidated by the idea of, say, playing Bayonetta. Maybe at first they feel that they need the option to swipe the screen on the Wii U gamepad, or have the mode where you play with one hand or whatever, or Nier Automata have a module that plays the game for you or auto attacks for you. Maybe they feel they need this. I personally believe a lot of games that people have issues with, I feel that, you know, in time and with practice you can learn. And I think that if you have the tools necessary in the game, you can teach people how to play. And this isn't really an elitism thing. I would love more people to enjoy games that I personally enjoy, but maybe they, you know, feel intimidated by them because of the high, or the perceived high difficulty curve required to overcome in order to get enjoyment from these games. Speaking of games that maybe feel exclusionary to certain people, Dark Souls. I don't think an easy mode for Dark Souls would work. Simply put, I think that once again, this is something that is just, it's just a simple fix. Like it's like you just do it and there's really no thought behind it. There's no nuance to it. Yeah, sure, you can reduce the damage output of an enemy, or you could reduce the health pool of an enemy, but is that going to really do anything for the player? Are they going to feel accomplished? Are they going to feel invested in the game? Personally, I don't think so. I think the things that they currently have in the game right now, in most of the Souls games, where you have the co-op options, you also have builds that are more new player friendly, you have builds that are much more simpler and easier to understand. You know, you have a shield and you have a sword. The shield basically tells you as a player that, look, I have this and this is going to reduce a lot of the risk that I'm going to take while going into this environment, because I can just simply say, no, I'm not going to take any damage. And if you want to go and take the game to the next level, you can start doing things like dodging and parrying and riposting, which are more high level things that you can basically get invested into, and that adds to your enjoyment and that adds to your investment of the game. And maybe if you get good at the first one, you'll buy the next one and the next one and the next one and the next one. So yeah, I think Dark Souls does a pretty good job of trying to get in new players. And you know what? I think a lot of people like have this issue with the point that I'm about to make, and you know, so what? I don't think there's really anything wrong with having exclusivity when it comes to beating something, okay? That is how I feel personally. Nobody complains about scoreboards. Nobody complains about speedruns. No one complains about achievements. I mean, some people do, but you know, no one complains about this concept of, I'm the one, I did this, I beat this, I'm one of few people that were able to do this thing, and that feels great. Some people feel like a great sense of accomplishment of that. I can see that, and I can agree with that. Adding in an easy mode would diminish one of the core factors of Dark Souls, which is you're going to die. You will die, it's gonna suck, it's gonna be horrible, and guess what? If you quit the game, much like in the story, if you give up hope, if you lose sight of the goal, if you lose sight of where you're going, you go hollow. If you quit the game, that's it, you're gone. In the actual game and the lore, if you give up on your dreams, if you give up on your aspirations, you go hollow. That's it. You're finished. Your mind is completely gone. Enough about Dark Souls. All in all, I think that accessibility options, personally, I don't really mind them. If it gets people to play, which I question, this is a question that I want to bring to the comments. If you could just tell me, like, having these accessibility options, like, are you more interested in Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite because there are simpler inputs? Are you more interested in Street Fighter 5? Obviously not, because the sales are poor, but would you be more interested in Street Fighter 5 if it had all the other content and whatever because of the simpler inputs? Are you more interested in buying Mario Kart 8 because it will accelerate and would steer for you? What I'm trying to ask is, does these accessibility options, do they convert into sales? We need to look at the data. Does X game that have no accessibility options sell less than Y game which has ton of accessibility options that plays the game for you, gives you free health, gives you free items, whatever. Like, we need to see the data. Like, I'm very curious as to if that's a thing that exists. And, you know, all in all, just to close, this is my final statement. This is not scripted, by the way. This is just off the top of my head. I think that game developers need to invest and need to think about things that will get players invested and will get players to keep playing and master and become proficient at games. Whether it be through the actual level design itself, whether it be through tools and tutorials. I mean, speaking of Guilty Gear, please go look at the tutorial for Guilty Gear. It breaks down fighting games into something that most people will recognize by turning it into a platformer. You have to jump and avoid enemies, and you have to attack enemies. Like, they turn it into like a sort of like a hybrid of a beat 'em up and a platformer, and it's fantastic. It really gets you thinking, okay, I understand all these super complex and abstract mechanics now because it's presented to me in a way that I understand. And I may not be into fighting games, but I know platforming, I know beat 'em ups, so I think we need to look at that more and focus on that more than the Star Fox Zero approach where it flies for you, or Yoshi's Woolly World approach where you're invincible and you fly around, or Mario 3D World approach where if you die 5 times you get a Tanuki suit that makes you invincible. Okay, people say, oh, you don't need to pick it, it doesn't affect you. Look, right, there are some levels in Mario 3D World that are incredibly hard, especially in the later like secret areas. They're incredibly hard at times, and yeah, I'm gonna die 5 times, okay, but I don't want that condescending block that's just there and it's like, oh, you died a bunch of times. Do you want to be a baby? Do you want to be a baby? Get the baby Tanuki. You'll be invincible. You'll be God. You'll be all shiny. Look, you're pretty shiny. No, I don't want the Tanuki suit, okay? Especially I don't want the Tanuki suit when I start the level, I accidentally hit that block, and now suddenly I'm invincible and I have to go kill myself because I don't want to beat the level with the Tanuki suit. I want to beat the level with the regular Tanuki. I want to be good at the video game. That is all. I don't know how to end videos. I love you. Take care of yourself. Bye.